Okay, hello everyone. So I just released a urban exploration video and somebody liked it. Didn't get a lot of views. I still like doing them. This is from Be Silly? Oh, Be Amazed. Be Silly. What? Creepiest things discovered by urban explorers. The reason why I'm doing this video is because the thumbnail showed a bathtub full of brains. So clearly I've got to click on this video. So let's get into it.
When we see abandoned places, it's hard not to wonder what's inside. And why was it abandoned in the first place? But after watching this, you'll see that sometimes those questions are best left unanswered. Because once in a while, urban explorers of abandoned places end up finding things they wish they hadn't. Creepy abandoned mine shaft. YouTube user Frank Hood of the Exploring Abandoned Mines channel posted a chilling video while deep in an abandoned gold mine in Australia. Exploring the mine on a dark and stormy night, a questionable idea in itself, the video captures something very creepy indeed.
Do you hear that?
If you listen carefully, you can hear what sounds like whispering voices in the secluded underground mine.
Wow, I've heard some weird stuff in mines, but that is definitely creepy.
I've seen this one before. He also has another one with the chain swinging. Yeah, this one's kind of weird because I've heard people trying to explain it away by snakes and stuff like that. I have no idea, but it sounds like a bunch of people chanting.
YouTuber stays surprisingly calm, but was still too freaked out to continue exploring. It's worth noting, this YouTuber's channel is not focused on the paranormal. This video was somewhat of an anomaly among its usual content. Could the odd hissing sound have been snakes like he suggested? Were his footsteps or the sound of wind reverberating and echoing around the mine shaft, creating the strange auditory phenomena? Or was it really the voices of people or things occupying the mine, who don't seem too welcoming of visitors? Viewers were serious.
I don't know what a bunch of snakes in a mine would sound like, so I can't say, well, it's not true. But it doesn't sound like something snakes in a mine would sound like.
Seriously spooked by the video, with one suggesting it sounded like a demonic ritual. Other users were less convinced, agreeing with the theory that the noises were simply echoes, or were possibly even added in after the event. But on the chance that it is real, can you imagine hearing those sounds while exploring an abandoned mine at night? Alone?
No. 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 No.
Padlock dungeon. Contractors inspecting an abandoned farmhouse in Pickering, Ontario made a truly bizarre discovery underneath the property back in December 2011. Located at the end of a long driveway, surrounded by greenery, the house is hidden from passers-by. It seems to be a nice place to live, secluded and rural, but it hides a terrifying secret. Although the house was unoccupied for half a decade, the contractors found a recently installed locking system on the door to one of the rooms in the basement. The room was secured by a heavy door with multiple exterior locks, quite clearly designed to keep someone inside. Low-quality photos released of the room's interior show heavy-duty steel chains hanging from the ceiling. Deeply concerned by the room, so new and carefully built, the police began an investigation into who had built it and what their sinister purpose was. The day they began their forensic search of the property, however, a huge blaze engulfed the house overnight. The fire destroyed the entire residence along with any evidence it may have contained, leaving big questions unanswered. Who built the dungeon? And what was it intended for? Unless someone comes forward.
And how did a fire break out? Like, that to me is another important thing as to figuring out who did it, why they did it, and then how the fire got started. That's crazy.
It looks like we'll never find out. Abandoned amusement park. Theme parks are normally places filled with laughter and fun. But this abandoned amusement park in Lancashire, England has an entirely different atmosphere now than when it was still open. When urban explorer Andre Govia searched the place, he found it full of a nightmarish army of terrifying mannequins. With their haunting expressions and decaying bodies, they make for a seriously creepy sight. If that wasn't unsettling enough, some of the mannequins were also dressed in disturbing costumes, now tattered and faded, scattered along the ghost train ride. Dating back to the 1960s, many of the mannequins were mechanical, which would have allowed them to move. Of course, the electronics are long defunct, and many of the mannequins' wires now trail out onto the ground. But the thought of one of these turning to face you while exploring the park is easily enough to keep me out. Abandoned Asylum Encounter. If you're looking for...
Encounter? Abandoned Asylum is a place where I never really want to encounter somebody. I'm drinking so much tea, it's making me sweat now. I'm drinking some mint tea if you're keeping score at home. I mean, we don't have to play the video, I guess.
If you're looking for real scares online, your best bet isn't to search for ghost videos or anything supernatural. It's the scary people YouTubers encounter that you should be more afraid of. And this next video proves it. YouTube channel The Proper People posted this strange and unexplained encounter that happened when they were exploring an abandoned asylum in the dead of night. The pair entered the asylum to find it largely destroyed, with the walls covered in graffiti from previous explorers.
I don't even think this is a basement. Alright, upstairs.
As the pair look around, they are stunned to see another person in the shadows outside the property. Miles from anywhere, there's nothing to indicate who the person is, how they got there, or what they were up to. There were no other cars parked at the asylum besides the one The Proper People arrived in. The pair call out, but get no response.
I didn't see anyone, but I thought I saw a flashlight, but that could have been a reflection off of like whatever shiny was out there, which if it's your flashlight reflecting off it, maybe you get the impression. No, because they had the light on there and it disappeared. Let me go back to that one more time. I'm sorry. Apologies. See, that's where I'm seeing the flashlight. But they never take their light off of it, and that does disappear.
In the shadows outside the property, miles from anywhere, there's nothing to indicate who the person is, how they got there, or what they were up to. There were no other cars parked at the asylum besides the one The Proper People arrived in. The pair call out, but get no response.
Hello?
Very uneasy, they decide to leave the asylum and get away from the unknown person who didn't seem to want to be found. Who could this stranger have been? A fellow urban explorer? A homeless person? Or somebody with more sinister intentions? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Pigeon Massacre. Urban explorers from the Hell on Earth YouTube channel happened across something terrifying in one of their videos. Having received a tip-off about an abandoned building somewhere in England, allegedly used by the Ministry of Defense, the group decided to investigate. Soon after entering, they find this intimidating message on a wall, not the warmest of welcomes. But remarkably undeterred, the group continue further into the abandoned, pigeon feces-covered complex, only to find another message saying, "Don't go upstairs." And yet, up they go. As their exploration moves along, an increasingly noticeable number of dead pigeons can be seen, some headless. But the scariest part? Writing on the wall of a higher floor bears the words, "Too many birds." Either someone's playing a prank, or there's a seriously twisted individual living in that abandoned building. At certain points, the ominous calling of what sounds like pigeons somewhere above the explorers also becomes apparent. And later still, a male voice calls out to them. Freaked out, the group quickly exit the building, only to be confronted by an angry security guard who accosts them for trespassing. While waiting for the police to show up, the group asked the guard why the building was so inexplicably full of dead pigeons. The security guard simply replies,
Because it's the ghosts.
It's the ghost.
That is haunted.
perhaps there's a reason the building is so closely guarded. It's important nobody gets in, or they might lose their heads. Rockstar's Basement. In 2017, urban explorers from the YouTube channel Exploring with Fighters made a chilling discovery in an abandoned $13 million mansion near Oxford, England. The mansion's previous owner was rockstar David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, who reportedly purchased the massive 11-bedroom 16th century manor house in 1980. But sadly, after it changed hands a few times, the most recent owners let it fall into disrepair. The video explores the rooms of the now abandoned mansion, including a snooker room and an elaborately decorated child's bedroom. However, as they venture downstairs into the basement, things get a little more sinister. Leaning eerily against a wall is what appears to be the gravestone of a 7-year-old boy named Little Jack, who died in 1909. As of yet, no one's been able to offer an explanation, though some believe it may have been made in memory of a family dog generations ago. Either way, it's a creepy thing to encounter anywhere, let alone in the basement of an abandoned house. But even the mansion's more recent history is troubled. A woman named Jill Sinclair owned the manor house at the beginning of this century, but suffered severe brain damage after her son accidentally shot her with an air rifle on the premises. She later died of her injuries. The house was sold in 2007 following the tragic incident and has been left to decay ever since, haunted by its tragic past. The urban explorers must have been very grateful that the manor's disturbing past only came to light after they were safely away from the premises. Dr. Anna's house. There's an abandoned urology.
That headstone could have been made for a pet. It was outside, maybe where the pet's burial is. Fell over. Years go by. It's new ownership. They come across that. They pick it up. They take it in the house. Somebody sees it and they're like, yeah, I found it on the property. Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's creepy. One person might say, get it out of here. Put it back where it was. Or the other person's like, well, I don't want to see it. So they just took it and put it in the basement in an area where that person isn't going to go by very often. I would have just tried to pick it back up and then try to stick it back in the ground, because I would figure that's where it was supposed to be. I wouldn't take it home.
Clinic in Bad Wildingen, Germany. That's a morbid tourist dream. To the urban explorer community, this creaky, decrepit building is known as Dr. Anna's house. While the identity of Dr. Anna has never been confirmed, the clinic was abandoned sometime in the last 30 to 50 years. The creepy contents of its downstairs surgery have lured explorers from a
downstairs surgery. Probably abortions. Dr. Anna. It's a woman giving abortions. That's my guess. I don't think she's doing brain surgery.
Explorers from across the world ever since. The diverse array of faded medicines and other pharmacology equipment is surreal, but not as creepy as the numerous glass vessels of preserved human kidneys. I suppose if Dr. Anna was working with urine all day, it must have made sense to study the things that produce it up close. For science, I guess? Or maybe she just took her own out for inspection and forgot to pop them back in before leaving. Whatever the answer is, I'm not sure I want to know. New Orleans Charity Hospital. The New Orleans Charity Hospital dates back to 1736, when a generous benefactor left money to construct the new hospital in his will. But after surviving for over 250 years, the building was irreparably damaged by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Devastated by the storm, the building became unusable and was abandoned. Urban explorers, intrigued by the building, discovered eerie, storm-beaten rooms and operating theaters slowly rotting and decaying. More disturbingly, they also found traces of biohazardous material left behind in the rush to escape, including blood and urine. There were even body parts, such as removed gallbladders, lying around in certain rooms awaiting the analysis or appropriate disposal that never came. Today, the hospital remains closed to the public and strictly off limits, but that doesn't change the fact that it's a hotspot for urban explorers. Barn dolls. While exploring an abandoned petting zoo, the hilariously named Reddit user Himmelfarts Commando stumbled across a scene straight out of a horror movie. While the Redditor may have expected to find some unusual things while exploring, they couldn't possibly have expected to find this. Yep, a rickety old barn with several creepy children's dolls strewn around the floor. Unsurprisingly, the sight of the doll...
Wait a minute. It's a whole box filled with them. That might be a box filled with them. So this might have just been, well, it doesn't make any sense why it's there, but maybe they were storing them on their property for whatever. Maybe they were involved. Maybe their work was something to do with dolls, and they were storing excess dolls. I don't know. It's weird.
Unsurprisingly, the sight of the dolls leading up to a dark and dilapidated barn was enough to convince the Redditor to leave as quickly as possible, before they found out who they belonged to. While these dolls were probably originally intended to be sold in the petting zoo's gift shop before it closed, you can't help wondering who was behind this mess, or whether they knew how much of a fright it'd cause. Creepy children's drawing. In 2017, urban exploration YouTuber Exploring with Josh posted a video in which he explores a rotting chapel and 2 abandoned houses deep in the forest, somewhere in Pennsylvania.
So it's like a log cabin almost.
Yep.
While the group feel uneasy visiting the chapel and the first house, they find nothing particularly unsettling.
It's getting late. We're going to the next place now. It's probably going to be dark when we get there.
However, in the second house, they come across a more chilling atmosphere. Layers of dust cake what is otherwise a neatly arranged home,
Very rustic.
They still have vodka left in there.
which appears to have been abandoned in a hurry, seemingly leaving all the owner's possessions behind.
Whoever lived there had kids.
Yeah.
Their names are right there.
But continuing to explore the kitchen, the group encounter a chilling image scrawled onto a child's blackboard. The picture has been interpreted by some as depicting a woman hanging with a rope around her neck, though I'm not entirely convinced. That being said, in another room they find a more sophisticated drawing along the same theme.
Okay.
That is messed up.
The group found nothing else around the house to explain the drawings or why the house was left in such a hurry, as if frozen in time.
But why would they leave everything? Like, it's just...
We did some come from that world.
It's so weird, though. Like, I don't understand.
While some commenters on the video have suggested the drawings were faked, either by Josh or previous explorers, it doesn't make the houses themselves any less creepy. The unanswered question of why they were so quickly abandoned remains.
Like, how can... Imagine just ditching your house. Who knows where you went or what happened. This is like, what the heck? So
lending itself to all sorts of dark conclusions. But whether tragedy really befell this place or not, there's no doubt that an abandoned house full of morbid sketches would be a supremely creepy thing to find deep in the woods. Abandoned veterinary school. Most urban explorers know the risks they're taking on when they enter places. They could be arrested, injured, or come across something truly horrific. For something from the latter category, just ask Stefan Bernard. What he found in the basement of an abandoned veterinary school in Anderlecht, Belgium, is the stuff of nightmares. The veterinary school closed towards the end of the 20th century and has been abandoned ever since. Stefan and other explorers decided to investigate the building to take pictures of the decaying classroom.
Yeah, that light does not do exactly what it's showing it does.
Pictures of the decaying classrooms, but once inside, they were met with the sickly, pickle-like odor of formaldehyde. Stefan and the others decided to head downstairs to figure out where the stench was coming from. What they found was beyond any of their expectations. Containers, some nearly a century old, were dotted all over, each filled with the preserved bodies of animals. Hundreds of grotesque body parts and organs could be seen floating in formaldehyde, with dogs, cats, and rabbits being among the hideous menagerie. Stefan's photos are truly spine-chilling, and it's not hard to imagine the disgusting smell of all those random preserved animal parts. While these specimens were clearly once used for study, I can't help feeling like a mad scientist is about to jump out, ready to put my organs in a jar. Bathtub full of brains. Back in 2009, in an abandoned hospital in an undisclosed location in the southern United States, one urban explorer made a truly ghastly discovery. The explorer snapped pics of this ghastly sight. A bathtub full of brains suspended in an unknown brown substance. While little information was provided alongside the image, it does appear to show real brains, potentially preserved with formalin for medical study. The strange
Looks to me like it's being preserved in some kind of brine. Yeah, we're gonna marinate those brains and cook them up. You ever had brain salad? Me neither. I just made that up.
part, though, is that they look decidedly like human brains in shape and size. While it's possible this hospital had to quickly store the specimens in an emergency, a bathtub isn't how I'd manage my personal collection of brains. It's got to be individually labeled jars, at least for the discerning collector. But seriously, whatever the explanation behind the image, be it medical, artistic, or something darker, it's a sight I sincerely hope to never encounter. Great white shark. Early in 2019, an urban explorer came across something truly bizarre in an eerie abandoned wildlife park near Melbourne, Australia. YouTuber Luke McPherson decided to explore the derelict park, hoping to gain some insight into its history, but instead found something terrifying. In a storage room out of the corner of his eye, Luke spotted a 16-foot-long, 2-ton great white shark. The shark was suspended in a formaldehyde tank, almost perfectly preserved by the chemicals, surrounded by piles of litter and dusty boxes. The shark, affectionately named Rosie, it turned out, had been accidentally caught in a fishing net over 20 years ago and had been preserved and displayed in the tank ever since. But when the park closed almost a decade ago, its owners decided they didn't want to take the enormous creepy shark with them. I don't know why not. It's a great conversation starter. Fortunately though, as a result of the publicity generated by the shocking discovery, a local tourist attraction, Crystal World, stepped in to save the shark from disrepair. Rosie is currently being restored and rehoused before going back on display near Melbourne, creeping out the masses once more. But as spine-chilling as a preserved great white may be, it's still better than encountering a live one in the middle of the sea, because in the ocean, there's nowhere to formaldehyde. Have you made any discoveries of your own while exploring creepy abandoned old places?
There's no place to formaldehyde. I should stop the video and not even claim that I did it because of that terrible joke. I'm not going to. Okay. I got a little thanks button, just like that. You can click it, donate to the channel if you'd like. If not, don't worry about it. Like and subscribe, mandatory. You gotta do it now. And until the next time, have a good day, have a good night.